right, let's go, because you know what I came here to do.
I don't get paid for overtime. I'm here to fight.
There was a tweet recently, I know you're very active on Twitter, from Oscar De La Hoya saying he wanted to do a mediated sit-down round table with other promoters. You weren't tagged in. Why do you think he didn't tag you, first of all? And do you think it will lead to anything? Do you think they will actually even have the sit-down, never mind make the big fights?
Well, first of all, I don't know how they're going to do that between them. Let them get on with it and do it. I don't need to be. We're putting on the biggest fight in boxing this century, the heavyweight. So we made it happen.
Can't really argue with Frank's response, you know what I mean? There ain't too much gigs bigger than Usyk versus Fury, I believe scheduled for February. Now, Oscar's all about the place, you know what I mean? How are you going to invite Dimitri Salita, who doesn't even have a TV deal, to decide what the biggest fights are going to be? You'd be better off calling Tom Brown before Dimitri Salita in 2023, no? Yeah, all of a sudden you wants to be pals with Eddie Hearn. Nothing wrong with that. They're on the same network, cool. Al Heyman, Oscar had to write his name in basic text because he doesn't have an @ Al Heyman or any social media contacts at all, apparently. Bob Arum, he's old Oscar. And no, it wasn't a slight on Frank Warren, because it's obvious why Oscar didn't mention Frank Warren. The last time Frank Warren's had his name on the paperwork in a promotion across the pond is 2018, the first Fury-Deontay Wilder fight. Oscar's talking about fights in America, and Frank hasn't really done much over there since 2018, and before that, probably Prince Nassim 97 against Kevin Kelly. That was a great event, though. He basically handed Bob all the paperwork to the promotional rights of Tyson Fury in America to Bob Arum. He's not a player in America, that's why he wasn't mentioned. The funny thing is, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like he said, he does have the biggest fight in the game with Fury and Usyk. And this could be a trend moving forward where a lot of the big fights don't take place in America. It's due to not having the same standard of promoter and broadcast as yesteryear. HBO, Showtime out of the game. So you can expect a lot more of that, unless Al can turn the fortunes around with this new deal. And I don't believe he will. It's going to take a young American promoter who's not bogged down in what I would call a certain isolation America have, especially with their national sports, gridiron, basketball, baseball. And yes, them sports are played elsewhere outside America as well. Like one of their main sports, I've heard them reference the winners of world champions, but it's predominantly just American teams, isn't it? You know, for years you've heard Americans be dismissive of what they call soccer, when more people participate in that sport than any other sport in the world. So it's going to take a promoter who can look at the global landscape and appreciate, for him to be successful, he has to be able to network in all these different regions, or obsolete. There's no one country in the world, UK, USA, who can restrict all the boxing action in just one country, contain it all in one country, and still be a global force. The only way it can work to contain all the action in America is if Golden Boy joins up with Top Rank and the PBC, or forget about it.
Forget about it.
And it's the same in the UK, you know what I mean? Like, domestically, we can kiss goodbye to any glory days, whenever they were, if we don't see a consolidated effort between Queensbury, Matchroom, Boxer, Wasserman. Simple.
Okay, we'll start with this. Former WBC heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder had this to say. He said, "When you see the heavyweight division, I kind of agree. It's in its worst moment it's ever been in history. I brought the excitement back to boxing. If I didn't, then why is it so dull, so dead? No fucking excitement without me. We're trying to plan something. Mid to late January 2024 is going to be amazing for me. It's just a matter of time before I will be crowned and back at the top."
Mid to late January.
It just so happens that Tom Brown's TGB Promotions, which is just another way of saying PBC Promotions, it just so happens they've set aside a date in mid-January, January 13th, at the MGM Grand for a card to be televised on pay-per-view. Could that card be Deontay Wilder's next fight?
So, I think Ring could be onto something about this January date. Why? Because all the talk about Anthony Joshua is scared to face him, and he's going to fly over the UK and have a face-to-face with him to try and get the fight done once and for all. Mr. turned down 120 million at DAZN. Mr. turned down several Eddie Hearn offers previously. He was on Blue Blood Sports TV, and the topic turned to Fury versus Ngannou. I had a lot of texts and people calling me about it, especially when he got dropped. After the fight, a lot of people were figuring out what was going on. Maybe he did cheat in your fight, and maybe he did have something in his gloves. Anyway, look, that's a whole lot of nonsense. Just the fact that Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury's name came up in 2 of his recent interviews, and he's also talking about doing MMA at 38 years of age. Come on, man. I mean, that's a lot of talking. I believe he's got something to promote. Expect an announcement soon. It wouldn't be the first time he's done clout chasing like this, using Anthony Joshua's name. Francis Ngannou first looked at the Anthony Joshua fight before the Fury option was explored. Fury wanted to do it. You all know the story by now. He underperformed, and many people, including myself, think Fury was lucky to get the decision over Francis Ngannou. Eddie Hearn basically geeked and amped after what he saw with Fury and Ngannou. He wanted to pencil in that 23rd of December date, and he wanted AJ to take on Ngannou. Now, AJ hasn't made a position on it. It's Eddie doing all the talking, as he should. He's the promoter. But Francis Ngannou has shut that option down. He said it's too soon, and his immediate focus is the rematch with Fury. Now, I don't know if he's going to stay inactive until Fury is possibly available again, because, like, how long will he be waiting for that? I'm assuming the rematch clause with Usyk is a two-way thing. So everybody will be frozen out for at least a year or so until Fury and Usyk's 2 fights are done, dusted, and settled. So the money is in boxing for Francis right now. So I don't expect him to wait around for Fury, because he could be talking 2025. The Derek Chisora fight is the best fight for Francis Ngannou. It's not as dangerous as the Anthony Joshua fight, because Anthony Joshua is one of the biggest hitters in the weight class. There's no doubt about that. And he's beat a better class of fighter than Derek has. Francis can now, with that bargaining chip of the Fury performance, get together with his team and strategically plan what they're going to do next. I tweeted a few days back that the Derek Chisora fight is stylistically a tougher matchup for Francis than the Tyson Fury fight, and most people agreed with me. So they've added OHARA Davies versus ISMAEL Barroso as chief support for Ryan Garcia versus Oscar Duarte. 2nd of December, Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. So OHARA and Barroso will battle it out for the WBA super lightweight interim world title. Apparently, Rolly Romero is the champion in a recess. It's all a bit of a mess, really, to be honest. Like, you would think after a very controversial stoppage of Barroso last time out, they wouldn't be so keen to keep him as interim champion. But the WBA, look how long they kept Lee Wood as interim champion when it was clear that Leo Santa Cruz had no intention of fighting at 126 again, and they eventually elevated Lee Wood. It's like, you know, anyway.
And how do you evaluate and break down your opponent, Ismael Barroso?
I hit him downstairs, I hit him to the body, break that motherfucker down. Hit him downstairs, pop, 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 hit him upstairs and hit him back downstairs. Every time he throws a shot, I'm going to counter him downstairs to the body, and I break him down.
Now, ISMAEL Barroso has been a pro for 18 years, but you can perhaps say 15, because after his debut, he went missing for 3 years for whatever reason. OHARA Davies is a pro 9 years. He gets his opportunity. 31 years of age, 9 years younger than Barroso. Barroso has a tendency to fade in fights like he did against Rolly, although he was still winning the fight, in my opinion. And like he did against Anthony Crolla when he got stopped in the United Kingdom a few years back. OHARA Davies, however, is not high output. He's not high output, and against an older man with a tendency to fade, and he's 40 years of age, you like to see a higher output. But however, OHARA has power in both hands. He has very heavy hands. you could just watch that last body punch he threw at Lewis Ritson to see how much power he can generate. Josh Taylor himself said O'Hara's got heavy hands, and that was in a losing effort from O'Hara. Like he said, work the body, and he said counter, but as well as counter, I'd like to see him take the initiative rather than wait for the perfect shot. But this has to be a winnable fight for O'Hara Davies. It has to be winnable. And if not, well, he'll be surplus to requirements at Golden Boy, who I believe are just fattening him up for Ryan Garcia if Garcia is successful against Duarte in the main event. O'Hara is a come-forward counter-puncher, solid technique. Barroso, when he punches, he extends over his feet, doesn't necessarily try to get the perfect foot setting to punch, he'll just punch. And he'll leave opportunities for O'Hara to land. So it should be an entertaining fight and a winnable fight for O'Hara. I'm backing O'Hara, but, you know, O'Hara has fell asleep at the wheel on occasion, like he did against Jack Catterall. I thought that fight was a draw, and obviously he lost to Josh Taylor. Channel 5 tomorrow, Harlem Eubank versus Tino Schwarzkopf at Brighton. So if you're in the UK and you're looking for some free boxing on terrestrial television, there you go. Saturday, Newcastle Arena, we have the 11-0, 4 inside the distance, Shabazz Massoud, 27 years of age, taking on Jose San Marin from Colombia. San Marin, 31 years of age. It's a next-gen card, and they'll be battling for the WBA Intercontinental Super Bantam title that's vacant. San Marin, 34 wins, 21 inside the distance, 7 losses, 1 draw. He has more knockouts than Massoud has fights, and apparently he's pretty capable. I don't know much about him. Why has Massoud been out for so long? It will be a year to the day on Saturday since he last fought, and apparently he wanted to be pushed in deep, and Eddie apparently is not going to stop the prospects getting tossed in deep, and they didn't want to let him headline in Newcastle and give him a Smurfette to fight. So should be a good main event. And then there's a list of unbeaten prospects on the undercard, none of which I know too much about. I recognize Jimmy Sains. He's going to have his second fight at middleweight. Okay. Now, Teofimo Lopez. I don't know if he's got a beef with Eddie. I don't know if it's because he lost his titles on DAZN. He says something about the spoon-fed schmuck, whether he likes it or not. DAZN will be out of boxing in 5 years. I don't think Teo and a lot of people across the pond understand that DAZN is based in London. DAZN's success is not predicated in America. DAZN is based in London, not New York, not the West Coast. There it is there. Media House in London, England, address 6th floor, 12 Hammersmith Grove, London, W6 7AP. DAZN is available in 200 countries. 200, not just America. If America abandoned the app, there's still 199 countries who want boxing. You know, hey, listen, DAZN alternates quite a lot. A lot of Americans are arguing, oh, we just can't get enough American boxing on DAZN. Well, Lou DiBella had a shot this week with Jamel Herring. His fight lasted a round. You know, there was some other fights on the card which didn't really pique my attention like that, but I will go through it again and have a look what's there. But I did see Jamel Herring score a first round stoppage, and it was good to see Herring back. But it alternates quite a lot. Lou DiBella had his shot. Golden Boy often have very good cards on there, which go under the radar. I mean, Matchroom at Super Feather, Oshaki Foster versus Hernandez, and then the week after that, Vasquez versus Cordina. Whew. Yo, them fights were serious. So, look, if Lou DiBella can only produce what he produces, you're going to have to go talk to Lou. Tell Lou to put better fights on DAZN. If you're complaining that you're not getting enough American action, that was Lou DiBella. He's an American promoter. But in terms of volume and free boxing and quantity, DAZN piss all over the PBC. Not sure if ESPN are reeing up with Top Rank from what I'm hearing. It's not looking good. PBC, apparently Al don't want to go to DAZN, and I don't really want him there either. So what's happening with this Netflix deal?
The Netflix rumor, it looks like it doesn't hold water. The Boxing Voice did a video on it a day or so ago. The headline was that Netflix is unlikely for the PBC. Coincidentally, Rick Glacier did say, them cats is lying. That shit is not real. They're making that up so that Amazon hears it and they offer them a better deal. That's what Rick said. So I'm just saying, that's what's out there. I don't know what's true, but that's what's out there.
So in July, Terence Crawford became undisputed champion, stopping Errol Spence in 9 rounds of boxing perfection at 147. In September, he's mandated by the IBF to take on Jaron Boots Ennis from Philly. The IBF received an email from Harrison Whitman representing Crawford indicating that an agreement for the Spence versus Crawford bout contains an immediate rematch provision which Errol Spence has exercised. As such, Terence Crawford is unable to engage in negotiations with Jaron Ennis for now. For some reason, Spence has exercised the right to a rematch. He said he's going to fight Crawford in December. And maybe if he committed to that, Crawford could have kept the belt. But fast forward, we're in November, and they've stripped Terence Crawford of the IBF belt. Are they saying if Crawford had informed the IBF in August when they made the request to start the negotiations, it could have been a different outcome? They left it until September to inform the IBF. I'm sure the IBF knew anyway. I'm sure they knew anyway there was a rematch clause there. Sanctioning bodies generally do not honour rematch clauses as a justifiable exception for mandatory title fights. IBF Rule 3.B, in fact, prohibits the practice. No contract for a championship contest shall contain any clause or any provision whatsoever guaranteeing or in any way assuring or promise either contestant a return championship contest where such a clause or provision interferes with the mandatory defense of a title. Most big fights tend to violate that rule. Crawford Spence falling right into that category. It was a risk that Crawford was willing to take to secure a career-defining victory and a life-changing, healthy 8-figure payday to go along with it. Based on the foregoing, the IBF have withdrawn recognition of Terence Crawford as the IBF welterweight world champion, confirmed the IBF. So Ennis claimed the interim position in January after outpointing Karen Kutsalian in Washington, D.C. The IBF agreed to sanction the fight under such terms given that Ennis, as the mandatory challenger at that time, did not have a path to immediately challenge for the title. Spence was ordered at the time to face his WBC mandatory challenger, Keith Thurman. The sanctioning bodies are bound to a rotational system for unified titleists, which left the WBA and IBF in waiting. The WBA already recognized Elemantis Stanionis as its secondary regular title holder and ordered his own mandatory title defense. All very confusing now, isn't it? They just said they ordered Spence to fight Thurman when Stanionis holds the regular belt and has actually stepped aside a couple of times to let Spence make defenses and unifications against Danny Garcia and Ugas. Ennis was permitted to challenge for the interim IBF title, which he since defended in a 9th round knockout of Roman Villa on July the 9th at Atlantic City. The fight came with the official ruling that he would next challenge the Crawford-Errol Spence winner. That was the IBF's position on the state of play. We're yet to get an update on Crawford versus Spence 2. We're waiting to find out which weight it will be fought at. Some of us questioning will Spence actually show up after the first display, or if there's actually any point. Spence wanted the fight at 154, claiming that too much of a struggle to make 147. Crawford, the winner, however, has the right to determine which weight the fight will be fought at. He wisely opted to keep it at 147. He's got no obligation to make the fight easy for Errol Spence. Spence could walk away. You know what really screws with me is they won't mandate Ennis to fight Crawford. They're going to find some hapless sap who hasn't achieved anything near that Crawford has at welter or at any other juncture in Crawford's career. But in all truth, Ennis, he deserves his belt. He deserves his belt. You can't deny a fighter his strap. but he should want to fight Terence Crawford for his own satisfaction, or can he really feel like a legit champion like Crawford, like a Sugar Ray Leonard, a Don Curry, a Sugar Ray Robinson, and Emil Griffiths?
Yeah, we asked for that fight plenty of times, yo. Plenty of times.
When?
Plenty of times.
What's plenty? When?
Man, you already
You
know.
fronting.
You know what's
You
up.
fronting now. Don't front for Gilly now.
No fronting. No
All
fronting. Keep it a being, though. We know we asked for that fight plenty of times.
When? That's what I'm saying. When? You keep saying keep it a buck. I'm saying when.
Plenty of
Now
times.
you saying one thing and your dad saying another. So when?
What you mean?
You saying one thing and your dad saying another thing. So what is what?
We asked for that fight. I've been asking for that fight since 2018. What are you talking about? Since I was a baby.
You been asking to fight me since 2018.
All the top guys, man.
Cut it. You believe that? You a fool. You believe that? You a fool. He's drunk. He's sleepy.
Do I believe Boots Ennis was trying to get that fight from 2018? No, I don't. He wasn't even ranked in the Ring Magazine top 10 in 2018. There's no way he was looking for a Terence Crawford fight in 2018, calling for a fight. There's just no way.
Right? And they said, all right, let's sit down and talk. I said, oh, you got to talk to my people first, though. Showtime.
Yes, sir.
Showtime, because they're trying to be slick, trying to get me to do it on my own without Showtime.
So basically, Crawford offered Boots Ennis the fight, and Bozy said, oh, they're trying to be slick and get me to do the deal without Showtime. And then he admitted further down the line that he's actually not got nothing signed to Showtime. There was nothing stopping him from taking the deal. But loyalty. Now Showtime are out of boxing. I mean, you can't dictate to the champion which network you're going to fight, going to challenge the champion on. That's crazy. And it's all very convenient now that Crawford's been stripped and you've got the belt. And you've already just told us that you turned down an opportunity to fight Terence Crawford on BLK Prime. You hear it there. You can hear it there. So let's see if Boots can prove himself to be a worthy champion. Right now, all the politics to remove the belt from Crawford, and Jerron Ennis is not actually signed to Showtime. Nothing stopping you fighting for the title. Hey, I'm just waiting to hear what Terence Crawford has to say. Peace.